Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everybody. I'm Preacher Mars, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Today is Sunday potluck, and I thought today would be a great opportunity to talk about some things in current events, things that have been happening, things that are new, but they're really not that new. You know, it is oftentimes you have to take advantage of an opportunity to speak truth to power. And when I say speaking truth to power, that is a term that comes from those who are oppressed. Now, while I may be speaking in this vein, I can't tell you, I don't know what people are going through in Afghanistan. I don't know what people are going through in Haiti. Both of them are natural disasters, both politically and in Haiti's case, of course, natural disasters. We are at a place, brothers and sisters, where we're beginning to revisit history. When I say revisit history, I mean that much the same as the state of Texas doesn't want you to know about Martin Luther King, definitely don't want you to know about Malcolm X or Susan B. Anthony, or anything that has to do with abolitionists, anything that has to do with freedom fighters. The United States foreign policy keeps helping us revisit the fact that there's something wrong fundamentally that when we go to other countries, we are not welcome there, brothers and sisters. Our policies don't translate. Now, I say our policies don't translate. But what I'm not saying is that you can't have good intentions. You can have good intentions. And usually when your policies don't translate, it's because there's a lack of good intentions or any intentions at all. You know, sadly, Haiti's in the middle of almost a 10-year rebuild from the first hurricane that hit a while back. Not hurricane, I'm sorry, first earthquake that hit some time ago. And you would think, brothers and sisters, that they would have rebuilt with all the money and the billions and billions and billions of dollars that poured into Haiti. Well, I got news for you. Haiti is probably worse off now. The infrastructure was never revisited. The infrastructure was never replaced. The same politics, if you will, before this earthquake hit are the same politics that allowed for the president of Haiti to be assassinated. These things are not, I repeat, are not coincidences. These are repeated aspects of history. And the DNA that's on Haiti is the same DNA that's on Afghanistan. And that is U.S. foreign policy. Not the will of the U.S. people. Let me say that. This is the will of U.S. foreign policy, which is fueled by corporations. We are not represented in these talks. Our mercy and compassion do not make it to these people. And the information we get back, of course, is these people are corrupt, but these people are terrorists, and I'll leave that out for a lot to figure out. But from just a clear-eyed point of view, it's like clearly something is happening. And we keep going back and forth with the cost of, we're just giving away billions and billions and billions and trillions of dollars that can be used for our children, for our infrastructure, for our education. In fact, brothers and sisters, the idea to keep a non-wartime peacekeeping force in Afghanistan for 20-some years, you could take roughly 10% of that and you could fuel education, possibly where kids could go to school, college for free for all 4 years. Is it my assumption? Am I wrong to say, wait a minute, there's something incorrect going on here? There is a defect in judgment that continues to permeate from the top all the way down to the people that it affects. You know, I'm going to show you something that might be disturbing when we come back from the break. But I want you to understand how people feel, particularly about Haiti. Haiti has a history, brothers and sisters. It has a history. It has a mythological history. You see, because Haiti was one of the few places that kicked their colonizers out. The story cannot be that people came together, coalesced a force, and created a situation or momentum to move the oppressor out. The folklore goes that to achieve freedom, brothers and sisters, the people of Haiti made a pact with the devil. And all these things that you see happening now are a result of that pact. Not a result of international foreign policy mingling, the institution of dictators and puppet presidents. No, brothers and sisters, it's the people's will, and their will was they would go with the devil, right, rather than have the intellect to fight for themselves. I find it condescending. Let me say that. I find it condescending, but I find it not just condescending. I find it, repeat it, I find it common that people, when they want their freedom, people when they want their liberation, somehow cannot, that will does not come from the people. It has to come from some other place. And so, this may sound bad, but everybody's dropped their pants and taken a proverbial poo-poo on Haiti for the last God knows how many years. And in Afghanistan, they did the same thing. But today, brothers and sisters, I'm going to give you some facts. I'm going to give you a little information, and we're going to talk. Let's go ahead and start the show. The SOS, Preach Moss. And we're back, brothers and sisters. We are back. You know what? We're going to go ahead and get into our shout outs. If you're coming for the show for the first time, hey, listen, thank you so much for coming. We got 3 words: share, subscribe, like, YouTube, Facebook. That's it. Hype us up and we will hype you up. Listen, if you have something to say, jump in the comment section. Don't be shy. Don't be a wallflower. This is the place to do it. I tell people why I'm the host of the show. I'm not the owner of the platform. The owner of the platform is the information and the energy that people, I want to say more specifically, people in the Shout Out Show comment section, better known as the Shout Out Show family, Shout Out Show soldiers. I thrive off that energy. And if you have something you want to say it. Get in there. That's the problem with America today. Everybody holds something in that bothers them for 5, 10, 15 years, and you fall over dead or something stress related, or you're not living your best life, but you're not saying what needs to be said. I'll be honest, this is probably one of the grounding features for me doing the shout out show is I get to get my thought outs. And I would implore all of you to get your thought outs too. Don't be like that. So that's for everybody visiting. I'm going to show you what happens when you visit. We have a dedicated group of people on the show. We call them the Shout Out Show soldiers, the Shout Out Show family. So I'm going to give them their love because they give me love. Let's get into our Shout Out Show family right now. Big love, my little brother. What's going on, Johnny Thomas? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's better known as JT. JT, I know we're probably going to talk about this. We talked about Afghanistan back in 2002. We had this conversation, and Haiti is one of these things where my heart breaks for Haiti. Can I say that? My heart breaks for Haiti. They're scrambling right now to get people out of Afghanistan who are interpreters, who work in foreign services for the United States, to get them over here. You know what real talk is, brothers and sisters? If you're in Haiti and you're a refugee and you want to get out of there, out of a horrendous situation following an earthquake, you still can't get in. You put in 10 years ago, you probably still haven't gotten in. Let me just throw that out there. JT, good to see you, brother. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Big shout outs to the family. Made dua for you and the family this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. Altaf Rashid, our Canadian ambassador to the show. Thank you, brother, for coming on. We appreciate you. Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. The Canadian ambassador to the show. We're the only virtual show with a Canadian ambassador, and Altaf Rashid is it. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. Put on your seatbelt. I'm talking about Haiti and Afghanistan today. Next up. All right, we got Sister Ree who returned triumphantly, brothers and sisters, from her debut at the international market yesterday. She sold product, she hung in there, and she followed her dreams, brothers and sisters. Miss Sister Reed, thank you so much for sharing part of your journey with us. We're so happy for you. Again, congratulations. You keep doing what you're doing, all right? You're always going to have support from me and the Shout Out Show family. Congratulations. Next up, we have Sister Santana, Whitfield, working the back, brothers and sisters, making sure that everything works in terms of the banners, the lower thirds. She makes it happen. And I always have to say thank you and I appreciate you. So thank you and I appreciate you. Let's get to this show. Also, before I get started, I want to give a shout out to our sick and shut in. Got a good message from Sister Nancy Mustafa. She's getting feeling back. Congratulations. Want to give a shout out to Brother Kendrick Samuels. Hang in there, brother. Hang in. Be patient. Want to give a shout out to Miss Eleanor. We hope you're feeling better. Want to give a shout out to Sister Lorraine Kitchen. Want to make sure that you're feeling better. And if you need anything from us, all the names I've mentioned, give us a call. All right. Also, somebody from our Shout Out Show family haven't been here in a while, but I want to make sure we show some love. Sister Rabina Chaudhary has not been on the show for a while, and I got a message from her. Evidently, sadly, she's been banned from Facebook. So let's keep her in our prayers, but sisters. It seems like everybody's getting banned for a week or losing whatever. So big shout out to Sister Rabina Chaudhary. Hopefully you hear this on Twitter or YouTube. God bless. Let's get to work. Now, I want you to watch this from 2010. This is following an earthquake in Haiti, a horrendous earthquake. Okay. Behind me, you'll see a scale of all the beautiful houses they have in Haiti. But after the earthquake, they weren't there. They were gone. Okay. So I am reminiscing to a point, romanticizing the beautiful landscape of Haiti. The reason I did that, I didn't want to put up graphic footage of hurricanes. I don't want to have an earthquake. I didn't want to do that. But I want to make the point about how people thought about these folks at their most desperate point. At their most desperate point, this is what people think, and this is from an acknowledged religious identity, Pat Robertson. Hang in there. I can't make this stuff up.
This is a calamity of cataclysmic proportions. I'm sure it's the worst thing that's happened since the tsunami, and it's a mess, Pat.
Well, if all those buildings are down, I understand more are fallen than they're standing. It may be a blessing in disguise. There might be a massive rebuilding of that country. Is that possible?
Well, I don't know. I would think that that would be a pretty optimistic attitude.
Christy, something happened a long time ago in Haiti, and people may not want to talk about it. They were under the heel of the French, Napoleon III and whatever. And they got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, we will serve you if you'll get us free from the French. It's a true story. And so the devil said, okay, it's a deal. And they kicked the French out. The Haitians revolted and got themselves free. But ever since, they have been cursed by one thing after the other, desperately poor. That island of Hispaniola is one island. Mm-hmm. It's cut down the middle. On one side is Haiti, on the other side is the Dominican Republic. Yeah. Dominican Republic is prosperous, mm-hmm. healthy, full of resorts, etc. Mm-hmm. Haiti is in desperate poverty. Same island. Sure. They need to have, and we need to pray for them, a great turning to God. And out of this tragedy, I'm optimistic something good may come. What?
Okay. I want you to understand that on the bottom, they were doing disaster relief for Haiti. And this guy comes out of the box talking about they made a pact with the devil. Now, I don't think it made a pact with the devil. They've had to deal with the devil, and there have been several devils, brothers and sisters. France being one of them, of course, with Napoleon. And that's a call it. U.S. foreign policy has been a devil too, a devil in the details, devil in the actions. Because foreign intervention the aspect of not allowing Haiti to grow organically, their leaders, has been their imprint for the last 20 to 30 years. From the Duvaliers to the brother who just was murdered, we were dealing with the same type of despot in that position who was no good for the people and oppressed the people. And it's hard that you oppress the people knowing, brothers and sisters, that a natural disaster has never been created. We're still asking what happened to all that money that we raised, the concerts, the drives, the all the people. I remember the Muslim nonprofits going down there and giving away food. This and yet, the people of Haiti still suffer. And I'm going to say why they suffer. My own opinion. Because all of that goodwill is the will of the people. The thing that cripples Haiti, or I won't say handicaps Haiti, is the fact that they still deal with U.S. foreign policy. U.S. foreign policy has never left Haiti. Going back to 1915, brothers and sisters, it never left Haiti. Going back to people uprising against a ruler or president because he was corrupt, and the United States government swooping in the moment that man was killed to put in military juntas, to put in all these people who had absolute power, police power. Nothing grew organically in Haiti. And that system still remains today. And that system is what cripples the will of the people. Does that make sense to you? That the United States has this thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not banging on the United States. I'm not capping on the United States. I'm a United States citizen. Therefore, my right is that I can tell you how I feel. But all too often, the United States gets into a situation, they inject themselves in a situation, and strategically don't know how to get out. They strategically can't let it alone. They can't listen to the will of the people here in the United States, or even the will of the people in those countries that they're dealing with. And consequently, we keep revisiting these things. Now, we have another earthquake in Haiti. My prayers out to Haiti, I've said this last couple of shows, my prayers out to Haiti is that you get an even break in rebuilding your government and rebuilding infrastructure to help your people. So anybody that wants to go into Haiti, you need to pay a toll. You need to sign off on something that said, I am thoroughly invested in the will of the people and what they need, not the will of the government. Okay? United States, if you want to drop off aid, drop it off, turn around and come home. You might change something. Now, let's switch up here. Because the other aspect of crumbling, you've seen it, it's all over the news, is Afghanistan. Now, let me give a little history about Afghanistan and why Afghanistan is somewhat like Haiti. So let me get to it. Going back to the 1980s, brothers and sisters, the United States has been dealing with Afghanistan. Now, let's do the amount of years. I said the 1980s. What is it, 2021? Let's just call it conservatively 41 years. They had something called the Mujahideen back in the 1980s. They were funded by CIA, and what the Mujahideen did at that point in time was they were financed to fight against the Russians who were in Afghanistan. Okay. So they fought against the Russians. They fought against communism. In the 80s, we thought this was very patriotic. We were trying to liberate the people. This is, you ever hear? We're trying to liberate the people. Okay, well. So this whole idea of funding an oppositional force to the Russians in their country, and guess what happened? The Mujahideen won, and they kicked Russia out. And the U.S. was funding all of these people, funding all of these people, funding all of these people. And when the Russians were kicked out, the U.S. characteristically didn't leave. They looked to put someone in power to make sure that their interests were taken care of. Well, preach, what interests do you have? Were they gonna open up a comedy club? Were they gonna open up a school? They have to open up mosques. It's a Muslim country. What interest of the people were they gonna do? Well, the interests were not the interests of the people. They were business interests. And let me tell you guys something. Old military guys know this. In countries like Afghanistan, in countries like Haiti, the rule of power belongs to the people who can feed their armies. So when the Russians left Afghanistan and then you had a standing army there, the United States pulled their funding. They pulled their funding. They stopped paying for them. Hold on to that thought. They stopped paying for the Mujahideen. So you had a bunch of warlords who had been funded. Now they're not getting money anymore. They went back to being warlords and not mercenaries for the United States. Stick a pin in that one. The United States oil interest. Write it down, the word Unocal. Unocal had began to develop interest in Afghanistan to build a pipeline. It was called they had one, it was called the Tappy pipeline, which was natural gas. The oil pipeline was supposed to go through Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, from Caspian to the Indian Sea. And that pipeline, brothers and sisters, was basically going to corner the market for sub-Asian oil needs. So imagine you have a pipeline and your number one client is China. Your number one client is going to be China probably for the next 300 years. Took a lot of money. Now, what happened was Unocal thought they were going to swoop in, probably something like they did with the Native Americans, with the Keystone pipeline that is no longer there. But they thought they were going to sweep in, but they ran into problems. And they had to cut deals with these warlords. Follow me here because it gets fuzzy. To use the land, organizations like Unocal and other Conoco, they had to cut deal with these warlords to lay pipeline across there. They wouldn't sell Unocal, these oil companies, the land. So the oil companies had to engage in agreements called land rents, where I will pay you to rent the land to run the pipeline. And why is this important? I'm going to tell you why. One of the number one exports out of Afghanistan is opium. Opium. So you had to create a subsidy, just like the farmers in the United States. You had to give them a subsidy not to grow opium, but to let this pipeline go through. That all went to hell in a handbasket. And then you found Unocal in U.S. federal court trying to sue for the right to put pipeline in Afghanistan. This thing gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So Afghanistan went through a period whereby there's a struggle for power. So the United States was not backing Afghanistan. They were backing a group called the Northern Alliance. And the Northern Alliance represented the U.S. interest. That's where the U.S. money went. That's where the corporate money went from oil companies. Ironically, the leader of the Northern Alliance was assassinated. And then they didn't have anybody. Then they had to deal with the Taliban. So now the Taliban is the rule of the land. And I have it on good authority that the Taliban came to the United States before they started getting a lot of negative press out of Hollywood. They came to the United States seeking to be recognized as the official government of Afghanistan, and it didn't happen. And then you had the whole thing of Osama bin Laden. It's on record there. U.S. CIA trained Osama bin Laden. So you had all of this stuff just play out. And the search for Osama bin Laden and smoking him out of caves and all these things became the impetus for a U.S. military presence in Afghanistan. Now, you would think it all breaks out well, that the United States would get in and they build the pipeline. Nope, they never got to build a pipeline. It got dropped. I mean, look at the people who you're talking about during this time, right? You're talking about Dick Cheney, who ran Halliburton Oil. You're talking about George Bush, oil family. Dick Rumsfeld, brothers and sisters. This is deep. Remember this. The original Taliban, after the first attacks from the United States, agreed to surrender. They agreed to surrender. Modest terms. I think the cleric, the leader of the Taliban, just wanted to be left alone and left to be under house arrest. Rumsfeld is on record. You could read it. Rumsfeld said, "No, I'm not accepting deals of that term. I'm not accepting the terms of that deal." He rejects the deal. You had other deals that the Taliban tried to surrender. They didn't do it. But just, if they surrendered at that point in time, the U.S., you know what the U.S. could have done? They could have left. Didn't do it. So you now have to build an Afghanistan army, a defense force. But I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, that defense force is no better than the Mujahideen, which is, as long as you're paying me to be a cop or a soldier, I'll be a cop and a soldier. If you're paying me to be a baker, I'll bake bread. But if you're not paying me to be a soldier and you're not paying me to be a cop, what do you think I'm going to do? You almost have to give the Taliban some credit here, because they are listed as pretty primitive, very unsophisticated. Knowing, and this goes to the Doha conference in 2020, when Trump, number 45, told everybody, we are out of here. We are out of here by September. And he didn't discuss it with the Afghanistan government and the Afghanistan Defense Forces. They said, damn, they pull us up and just leave us here. They literally said, we're going to leave you with no guidance, no infrastructure, and darn sure no money. Let me give you a reenactment of the defense forces fighting against Taliban. Ready? Ready? Here you go. I've been practicing this all day. It's like, who is it? Taliban. What do you want? We're taking over your country. All right, come on in. Let me do it again. Who is it? What do you want? It's the Taliban. What do you want? We want Kandahar. Now? Yeah. All right, well, come on in. And all they did, brothers and sisters, we went up to a bunch of people who are unemployed or soon have been unemployed, or people who have been paid in 6 months, and said, let me pay you something. Even if it's in Afghanistan currency, is better than what you got in your pocket right now, which is zero. You're talking about policies that don't work. I'm going to show you the top military cop before this all broke down. I think it was June or July 2021. Watch what he says. Watch what he says, because I can't make this stuff up. Here we go.
There clearly is a narrative out there that the Taliban are winning. In fact, they are propagating an inevitable victory on their behalf. They're dominating a lot of the airwaves on that sort of thing. I would tell you that as of today, more or less, I guess it's about 212, 213. It's in that range, 200s. The district centers are in Taliban control. It's about half of the 419 that are out there. You've got 34 provincial capitals in Afghanistan. None of them have been seized as of today by the Taliban, although the Taliban is putting pressure on the outskirts of probably about half of them, 17 of them, in fact. And what they're trying to do is isolate the major population centers. They're trying to do the same thing to Kabul. And roughly speaking, the order of magnitude, a significant amount of territory has been seized over the course of 6, 8, 10 months sort of thing by the Taliban. So strategic momentum appears to be sort of with the Taliban. The Afghan security forces, though, are consolidating their forces. So part of this is they're giving up district centers in order to consolidate their forces because they're taking an approach to protect the population. And most of the population lives in the provincial capitals and the capital city of Kabul. So they are right now, as we speak, adjusting forces to consolidate into the provincial capitals in Kabul. And that's why I say it remains to be seen over the rest of the summer. Right now, violence is relatively low because of Eid. But after Eid, we're going to find out. We're going to find out the levels of violence, whether it's going to go up, stay the same. There's a possibility of a negotiated outcome that's still out there. There's a possibility of a complete Taliban takeover or a possibility of any number of other scenarios, breakdowns, warlordism, all kinds of other scenarios that are out there. We're monitoring very closely. I don't think the end game is yet written.
Okay, let me give you an update. The president of Afghanistan left. His defense secretary left. Kabul is falling as we speak. Now, here's the funny part. Santana, you listening? Here's the funny part about the Taliban in all of this. These takeovers, if you will, they are exhibiting war strategy that reflects prophetic tradition, that you don't harm the people that you conquer, that you're not retaliatory towards them. I'm not saying that's happening, but they're putting it out here. In Kabul, they said, we don't want to fight you. If you want to leave, we will let you leave peacefully. There's no gunfights to be had at Kabul. They are watching U.S. soldiers load up people and put them on planes, take them away. Here's the funny part. Folks who were formerly in the Afghan Defense Forces are hanging out with the Taliban. Like, hey, brother, how's it going? Hey, yeah, the people leaving. They are literally doing that. And what am I saying, brothers? This is here again. U.S. policy has failed. And it's failed because we didn't know when to leave. We didn't know. See, there's this thing when you feel like you can give people their country back. You're the ruling decider. You're the deciding factor when people can self-govern. I'm like, you can't do that. If your intention is to help people get them on their feet, get them on their feet and move. Get them on their feet and move. That's what you said you were going to do. You didn't do it. Hasn't happened in Haiti. It's definitely not happening in Afghanistan. You see, that whole idea is that somehow we need to be there to make sure that they do it right. Peace and blessings to people in Afghanistan. Peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters in Haiti. On behalf of common sense and logic, I hope that these people leave you alone. And let me express that the will of the people back when the Haitians revolted and kicked out the French, that wasn't the devil they made a pact with. Those are people engaging their intellect, and don't ever let it be. I want to say, don't ever let it be switched up, twisted. Pat Robertson, you know better than that. So that's my show for today, brothers and sisters. I just kind of wanted us to think a little bit about that. I'll be on my usual game on Monday, but I thought it was important that we talk about this, and this show is actually I'm going to dedicate this show to Sister Rabina that always sends me this stuff. I mean, I ain't going to get kicked off of Facebook, at least not yet. But if anybody is looking on YouTube or Facebook, all of my information is factual. There's a book called Taliban. And they gave a whole breakdown, and I cross-referenced it, and it's true. And if anybody wants to look up the Afghanistan oil pipeline, do your homework. You could actually go on Wikipedia, and they'll bring it up. They say it was never built. But you know these devils. Let's go to our sponsors. We'll give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. We're trying to break you out of the chains of debt, brothers and sisters, get you out of the slavery of debt. And pick up the phone, give a call. On the other end, if you're lucky, you're gonna catch Maxine B. Cade Esquire, who is the proprietor. This is a minority-owned business. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. All right. Next up, we'll give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Again, it's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. If you're thinking about getting a quality graduate level, doctoral level education, and expanding your horizons in terms of Islamic leadership, Islamic studies, brothers and sisters, this is a place. They are featuring the country's #1 Masters of Divinity program for Muslim chaplaincy. You don't want to miss it. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. You can go there and check out some of the speakers, dynamic speakers, and the whole class load. I mean, you can check it out. You will enjoy it. Trust me. I've been there. That's the end of our show, brothers and sisters. I want to give a shout out to everybody that tuned in. I appreciate you. Shout out to Sister Santana. Mama Moss didn't make it today, but Moms, give you a shout. Miss Ellen, give you a shout. Miss Maxine, gonna give you a shout. Oh, my mom did make it in the show. There you go. Got that comment in late. Okay. So listen, everybody have a great day today. Whatever's left of it, enjoy it. Peace to Haiti, peace to Afghanistan. And you know what? Peace to the soldiers that have to go back there too. Can I say that? Because I'm sure that's not what they wanted to do. So peace to those 5,000 soldiers that have to go back, in my estimation, for no reason at all. Now, I'm going to give the U.S. a little pause here. In that, if you send 5,000 soldiers to make sure that people properly leave Afghanistan safely, feel the same way about the soldiers and make sure they get out of there safely. Afghanistan been 20-some years, 20-some plus years. Let's move on. All right. Take care, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Preacher Moss, SOS.